Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to our Writer's Workshop. Today, we'll be studying a new type of poem called a limerick. Limericks are fun, whimsical poems that are rhyming schemes, and we'll be learning more about that. But before we do, I have a short video for us to watch, and then we'll get into writing our limerick poems.
In this video, we are going to learn about limericks, and warning, this is going to be fun and this is going to be silly because limericks are both fun and silly. But first, what is a limerick? That's a good question. Well, a limerick is a type of poem, a very special type of poem. Limericks are usually very silly poems that are fun to read and to write. Let's look at some other things that makes a limerick a limerick. A limerick is a type of poetry that always has 5 lines. So, if a poem has more than 5 lines or less than 5 lines, you know it's not a limerick because a limerick always has 5 lines. Alright, so let's review. Limericks. Limericks are a type of poetry. Limericks have 5 lines, and limericks are often silly. That's not all, though. You see, limericks have a specific pattern. Just because a poem has 5 lines and sounds silly does not make it a limerick. Limericks have to follow a very special pattern. It's really awesome. Limericks have a rhyming pattern. That's right, a rhyming pattern. Remember, words rhyme when they end with the same sound. So let's look at this specific rhyming pattern that all limericks have. The first line, the second line, and the 5th line all rhyme. That means those lines end with the same sound. Then the 3rd and 4th lines rhyme with a different sound than the other lines. So the first line, second line, and 5th line all rhyme, and the 3rd line and the 4th line have their very own rhyme. So it's almost like a rhyme sandwich, you know? Let's look at an example. Let's look at a very old limerick about a mouse. Here it is. You might recognize it. Hickory-dickory-dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, and down he run, hickory-dickory-dock. Notice this follows the pattern of the limericks, doesn't it? The 1st, 2nd, and 5th lines rhyme, and the 3rd and 4th lines rhyme. It's a rhyming sandwich. It's a 5-line poem, and it's a little silly. This is a limerick. Limericks weren't really popular until this guy came around. His name was Edward Lear, and he is called the father of limericks. In 1846, Edward Lear published this book, a book called A Book of Nonsense. What an interesting title. It was a book filled with limericks and helped make limericks more popular. People loved reading his limericks. They were incredibly fun and, of course, very silly. Let's look at one of his limericks, a limerick about a bee, written by the father of limericks, Edward Lear. It goes like this. There was an old man in a tree who was horribly bored by a bee. When they said, "Does it buzz?" he replied, "Yes, it does. It's a regular brood of a bee." Notice how it has 5 lines. The first, second and fifth lines rhyme, and the third and fourth lines rhyme, making a rhyming sandwich, which is the pattern of a limerick, and it is definitely silly. This is a limerick written by Edward Lear, the father of limericks. To review, limericks are a type of poetry. They have 5 lines and they are often silly. They also follow a specific pattern. The pattern they follow is a rhyming pattern. The first, second, and fifth lines all rhyme, and the third and fourth lines rhyme, making a rhyming sandwich. That's the structure and pattern of a limerick. Oh, this is such a heavy cart. It's so difficult pushing this. It's stuck right in front of the school. What if the students see me with this? Okay, I gotta keep pushing. Gotta keep pushing this. I'm glad limericks aren't so difficult, right? Limericks, they have 5 lines. They're silly. They're fun to read, to write. They have a special rhyming pattern that's like a rhyming sandwich. But, am I gonna have to call for help? All right. Get Mr. Whiskers on the phone.
Boys and girls, as you learned from the video, limericks are funny and silly. So go ahead and make them funny and silly. It's going to be a lot of great poems, the funnier they are. Another thing limericks are, they have 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Always 5 lines. And lastly, for a limerick to be a limerick, they have to rhyme in a pattern. The pattern for a limerick is A, B, B, A. It always follows that same pattern. So go ahead, boys and girls, and practice writing your own silly, funny limericks and share them with me.